the thing about entrepreneurship is there's a return on your investment. And so it might not be right away, but what you put in, you will get out of it. Like you posting on LinkedIn and doing that, there is going to be a return of that. It's not going to be tomorrow, but there is a return on that. When you work for somebody, usually your return is set in stone. You could get a raise, maybe a promotion, but there's no increase. It doesn't increase. There's no interest involved with what you get when you do it for somebody else. There is a little bit, but not as much as being an entrepreneur. Now, being an entrepreneur, it could go the other way too. If you cheat yourself, I mean, it could go the opposite way. Tons of business people fall out of the industry, right? Whatever industry they're in, they can't make it themselves because either life circumstance or discipline or whatever it is, they can't figure it out and get it done themselves.
I know that today I looked through your LinkedIn, kind of educated myself on you a little bit, and I have known your history, a bit of your history, and I know that based on what you put on your LinkedIn, you've been working at building a business of some kind or working for yourself for about 20 years. And I know that LinkedIn can get behind, our the different kind of profiles and biographies and stuff on LinkedIn. So are you up to 30 now or is it still 20, 25?
2004. So where are we at? So 21 years. So yeah, 21 years. So I'm
Nice.
going to do it myself.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm about to hit my first year kind of right now with doing my own thing. So, um, I want to know what's kept you going through those years, through those 21 years that you've worked. Um, Being an
So a lot of
entrepreneur isn't easy.
No, it's not. And the biggest thing about it is I love the thing about entrepreneurship is there's a return on your investment. And so it might not be right away, but what you put in, you will get out of it. Like you posting on LinkedIn and doing that, there is going to be a return of that. It's not going to be tomorrow, but there is a return on that. When you work for somebody, usually your return is set in stone. You could get a raise, maybe a promotion, but there's no increase. It doesn't increase. There's no interest involved with what you get when you do it for somebody else. There is a little bit, but not as much as being an entrepreneur. Now, being an entrepreneur, it could go the other way too. If you cheat yourself, I mean, it could go the opposite way. Tons of business people fall out of the industry, right? Whatever industry they're in, they can't make it themselves because either life circumstance or discipline or whatever it is, they can't figure it out and get it done themselves. So for me, I ran my own business for, it was pretty close to 18 years. I sold it and I had a little bit of PTSD. And so I went back to work for somebody and it didn't work out like I wanted it to. I mean, there's lots of stories and things in there, but ultimately it did not work out. So once I left that, I went back to a completely different field, but I went back to working for myself, and it's rough to start out again. I mean, it's from the ground up, but as you do a good job and you have good intentions and you truly try to help somebody, well, no matter what it is, you are going to receive a return on your investment with interest. And that's why I keep doing it, because today is not as good as tomorrow will be, but 5-10 years from now, if you keep doing and keep grinding and keep doing whatever, at the end of the day, it's the best decision for you as an individual. And I'll stand by that 100%. Is just doing it for yourself. There's nothing better than doing it for yourself and your family, because that's the biggest motivator is our families. But just being your own boss, it's hard at first because that paycheck,
Yeah.
that weekly paycheck it's reassurance, it's safety, it's what's going to let you sleep a little bit better at night. When you do it all by yourself, tomorrow it's not guaranteed. I mean, if you don't close that deal, if you don't finish that project, you're not getting paid. It doesn't matter how many hours you put in on it. And so it's a lot more stressful. But if you do it with good intentions, that job's going to lead to another job, which will lead to another job, which will lead to an opportunity that wasn't there before. And doing things like this, networking and talking to people, there's going to be someone that watches this that's going to be like, that Matt, I like what he's doing. What does he do? Oh, he does that. That's what I need. And it's going to open up a door because that wasn't there before. And there's no way you could do this with a 9 to 5. There's no one that's going to be like, oh, what does he do? Oh, he clocks in, he works for this company. Okay, what does that company do? And then they're going to invest in the company, not with you. So
Yeah, I hear you a lot with that. Thanks for bringing that insight. I think a little bit about getting a taste of entrepreneurship and the control it gives you, and I mean that's a great thing to have. It's a great thing to be able to kind of bask in the rewards of your work, which I definitely didn't feel, and you probably shared that working for an employer. Um, it's you just don't get that return. Someone else benefits from that. So
100%.
when you did make the transition to your first business, 18, 20 years ago, when you're starting that up and you ran it for 18 years, did you kind of cut your existing job cold turkey? Did you start it as like a side hustle? I know that there's probably a gray area in between that.
Yeah, so gray area in between it. I was a manager for a position, and there was no opportunity for growth. And so I actually, to start my own business, I did it the wrong way. No one should do it the way I did it. I maxed out credit cards to buy a small business, and I really did. I remember calling the credit card company, and the lady on the phone was like, "So what are you doing?" I'm just like, "Oh, Christmas is coming," and this was like in March. I'm like, "I just want to be ready to build some credit for Christmas," and she's like, "Oh, okay." And the next thing you know, I'm writing the checks that you're not supposed to do on a credit card. I write that check. I write that check. There was like three credit cards that I wrote the cash check for. That's like the interest is three times the amount. But
Oh
I
yeah.
believed in it so much that that's what I wanted to do. So it was, you should warm yourself into it. Or I think what helped me the most is if I didn't make it work, I was going to fail. So there's the comfort zone, and then there's the uncomfort, the discomfort zone. And I was definitely in discomfort when I did that. It's something I've never done before. Maxed out three credit cards, just and bought a small business. But then just watching that business grow. Now hindsight's always 2020, 100%. When I started my business, it was me and my wife on the side of our house. And then that grew into a storage unit. Then it grew into an office space. Then it grew into an office space with a garage. And then it grew into 22 employees. I mean, but that started out with me maxing out three credit cards and just telling my wife I'm going to figure it out. And I never had done anything in that industry before. But anyway, long story short, it worked out, and it was great. And then I sold that business, and I thought, oh, I want to slow down. I want to kind of do this on my own again. I want to work for someone. I don't want the stress of running my own business. And you and I both know that there was a lot of stress in a particular place that we worked, and that just being a stress of working for someone, because the paycheck was okay, but that was it. I mean, there was big dreams and big aspirations, but then watching those completely fall apart, and I had no control over that. I decided, you know what, I'm doing it again. So I didn't max out three credit cards this time, but I started over, whole completely different industry, and started working for myself again. And now I'm actually aligned with a local guy here who's bringing me under his wing as a business partner, gave me an office. I still work for myself, but I'm under his kind of name. And it's been an opportunity that there's no way it could have happened unless I did what I did. And there's even a story with that, Matt. So when I got into this industry that I am, and I have a friend of mine in Mesquite, Nevada. He's like, you should do this. And so I said, okay, how do I do it? And so he gave me some tips. So I started to get into it. And then I sent out 10 emails to 10 different industries here in Idaho Falls of people that do the same
Hmm.
thing. And I'm just like, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking for anything. I'm looking for a mentor. Two people responded back. And then the one person pretty much told me I was wasting my time. The industry saturated. I shouldn't do it. And then this other guy mentored me, helped me. I always asked him questions. And then out of the blue this summer, he's like, hey, TJ, can we do some lunch? I said, sure. And he's just like, hey, my business partner in Pocatello passed away, and I need someone to help me with my business down there. He's like, I don't want to make you an employee. I'll bring you in as a partner, and you can just take over my Pocatello office. And he even said it's because of that first email that I sent that he always thought that there's something about this guy that he would send out an email, because who does that? Who asks for mentorship to people they don't know anymore? And that's one thing that I would say is is what helped me the most, is not being afraid to be turned down or get laughed at, told to get out. And like this guy, it turned into probably what I'm going to do, Matt, for the next 20 years. It really is with this guy. As long as I can with this guy, I'm going to do it with him. And he's been more than grateful, more than a great mentor. And now we're getting into some awesome, amazing things that this business is just going to explode over the next 3 years. And anyway, it's, I took a chance on myself again. Instead of maxing out 3 credit cards, I just sent out 10 random cold emails and got only 2 responses, but one was all I needed. And the one is where this guy is. I found my next place for the next 10 years where I'm still in control of myself. I work in my office, or I work in the office of Pocatello. He doesn't tell me where or who I have to do, but he's there for every question that I have in this. I've been in the industry now for 2 years, but
Mm-hmm.
he's been in it for 20 years, right? So I don't know everything, and he's more than happy to discuss. So anyway, the 2 chances I took on myself, maxing out credit cards or sending emails. Emails was a lot more safer, but I
Yeah.
still, you got to do something outside your comfort zone in order to get those successes. And that was definitely outside my comfort zone. I was a 40-year-old guy sending out an email asking for mentorship, and I'm sure a lot of those people saw this as, what's this 40-year-old doing looking for a mentor? Why is he, just like the other company, why are you starting now? It's too late. Well, I I can't do what I did. I need to do something else, and I'm ready to go, and we're going. So
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I find it so interesting, the duality of the two different endeavors that you've started. The first one starting out with so much youthful enthusiasm and belief, that I think that the fact that you were able to believe in yourself so much that you did max out the 3 credit cards is that's super powerful. It might be a little misdirected and and doing that, but I mean it did bring you success regardless. And then seeing now the difference in risk that you put out there, instead you reached just for email and sent out 10 emails. I gotta tell you, I find it pretty amazing that it only took 10 emails, and that you were able to, just by reaching out to key people in your industry, and at least getting a 10% yield on your the net that you cast, is pretty great. I mean, and it just goes to show it, you really took more of a shot there, and it was enough to get you going. So I find that really cool. Um, Back when you initially started with your first business, I know I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but something had to get you started, and I think you did answer that a little bit with, you're at a job that you weren't able to progress. But was there anything that, in any experience, or outside of moving on from that job, that it inspired you to start a business and start to be entrepreneurial?
just the paycheck of what I was able to achieve. To be honest, I was young, and like you said, motivated by different things back then. And so my the story in a nutshell is, I was going to school. I was going to be a high school chemistry teacher. That's what I was going to school for. I got my bachelor's degree at Rick's College. Moved down to Arizona. It's going to continue for my bachelor's and probably master's in teaching at ASU. But for whatever reason, ASU wouldn't accept me as an in-state resident for a year. I don't know. There was something happen. And so usually that it's not that long, but they wouldn't accept me as an in-state. So I started working in the industry that I got into, and I was making just as much money in a week that for one summer that my whole first year contract as a teacher was going to be. So I made just amounts in 3-4 months I was going to make for 12 months. So as
Wow.
I did that for the next 5 years, thinking I'll just go to school tomorrow, and I did that for 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, it was just like, okay, I'm making more now, but not more. How do I get here? And to get here was, I got to do it myself. I got to be the one that's billing. I got to be the one that pays someone else to go out, because that person that's getting paid is getting, you know, 12-15% of that cost. Yes, there is business overhead and everything, but the worker is getting 12-15% of the annual contract. So where that 85% goes, reinvest in the business, put in myself, do whatever. So I want the 85%. I don't want the 15%. I want the 85%. And then I can use that to grow and keep going. So that's where it all stemmed from. I looked at where I was working and what he was doing, and I was like, I can do this. I, I'm smart enough. I can do it. So I I went out and I bought an existing business, maxing out the 3 credit cards, so I didn't have to start from scratch. And that's where I was able to rip off my band-aid and leave the other guy, because I bought an existing business with clientele. And then through attrition and people coming in and coming out, it was rough at first, but I kept a solid base. And then once I figured it out, I was able to grow and do this and then do that and then learn from my mistakes. And then that 85%, at first, that 85%, you think, oh, great paycheck. No, you got insurance, you got overhead, you got
Yeah.
this, you got work, you got tools, you got all that. But once you figure that out and you learn how to save money, shop around, do right things, then I was able to take that, some of that 85% from being back in the business to putting in my pocket, till I was making more than the 15%. So 15% is going to the worker. I'm making about 25%. So that leaves about 60% that's going back into the business, which is, again, making more. And then I'm able to grow that a lot more, because as an individual worker, I can only do so many jobs in a day. But as a business owner, I just hire another worker that can do that many jobs again. So that's why then I grew to 22 employees, because then I had 22 TJs out there, doing that. And I'm making 25% of all of their contracts. Then it just grows from there. And that's how you grow. So it was, what got me going was financial factor. Is
Hmm.
I wasn't becoming a doctor, I wasn't becoming a lawyer. There's some great fields out there. And so, but I needed to make as much money as I could while I was young. And that's where that was my motivating factor, was the
Sure.
dollars that I can do what this guy was doing by myself. And then I could take that 85% and use it for myself, rather than me only make 15%. I can make 85%. And yeah, hindsight is 2020. I never made 85%, but I eventually got to a point where I was making more than a 15%. But then times it, how many workers, that's business growth. So
Very cool. I it seems to me like maybe early on in your starting that, you started to bring on other people. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it was like to bring on new employees, and I'm sure that we could probably fill a book alone just with what it's like working with people, because they are, from my understanding, they're the most volatile, unpredictable asset. And maybe not to speak of them as an asset isn't a good thing per se, but it's kind of the, I don't know, just the business jargon for it, I guess. It's human
well, no,
capital. You call it human
yeah,
capital.
well,
So,
just like an asset, it can appreciate or depreciate, right? And that's how employees can do for your business. They can appreciate your business or depreciate your business. So again, great story. When I bought the business, it came with one employee. That employee, Matt, stayed with me the whole time. His name's Adam.
wow.
Never left. So what with him, I thought, this is easy. This guy is great. I can do it. Then I hired my second guy. His name was Doc. That guy stole from me, stole clients, stole product.
Wow.
Ended up having to find him out on the job in order to take all of my stuff from him and fire him. I mean,
Wow.
from Adam to Doc, it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I lucked out with Adam. And so then I had to reevaluate my whole hiring process, figure it out. How do I hire? What do I do? How do I bring people in? And it's never perfect, ever. 100% never perfect. But just like with anything, you can get better. So rather than being 50-50, I could be 70-30. 7 people out of the 10 I hire stay. 3 are still quacks.
Hmm.
Rather than with Adam and Doc, it was 50-50, and that was that. My first guy was fantastic, but that's why he came with the business, because the other guy's like, you got to keep this guy. He knows his stuff. He's not going anywhere. And he never did. I sold the business, Matt. That guy is still with that business that I sold. He's just one of those guys that's loyal to a T. As long as you pay him right, he's not going to go anywhere. And solid, great guy. So I lucked out with Adam. But again, you can still perfect
Wow.
your process and do better with hiring, because that's what made me sell my business was employees. Long story longer, COVID hit in 2020, and my industry was a service industry. I went from being backed up for 2 weeks to being backed up for 2 months with work. I had more work than I've ever had in my life, but I could not keep employees. I could not throw money at them. I could not
Wow.
give them benefits. I could not keep employees. So after 2022, when COVID kind of sizzled, me and my wife are like, should we sell? Yeah. I don't want to ever go through a COVID ever again with employees. This was too much. And so we
Hmm.
sold, but I mean, that's what got me out. And now I purposely chose the industry that I'm in now because other than business partners, I have no one under me. I can if I want to, but most in
Sure.
my industry don't, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to have an employee ever again. It's too stressful. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with good employees, but bad employees will put gray hairs on your head. It is hard. So
That, yeah, I can understand that, and I can see that just from looking in a little bit and the experiences I've had as an employee, and I've just from what I've gauged hearing other people's stories is, if you can get away without doing that, and it leads me to kind of think of like what situation is an employee really good, and I think of these like other maybe businesses that have scaled really large, and they kind of have everything down to a T, but I mean, even that, it's pretty hard to justify as a small business person or as an entrepreneur bringing on employees. Um, and it's almost like if you don't have to go through that, maybe try not to unless you
yeah,
really need to. Um,
certain industries you have to, like for example, the service industry I was in. The only way to expand and grow was to bring on other me's. I mean, there's just
sure.
that. But now the industry that I'm in now, I don't have to do that. Because there's renewals and there's people that stay with you and things like so. Anyway, it
Hmm.
depends on your industry because there are certain industries that yes, you have to have an employee, and that process is extremely difficult. And there's others so you're not, and the people that do it right, great. I don't know if the numbers are true or not, but I heard a story a long time ago that a Walmart, like I was saying, how I made 15% for my boss. They're saying Walmart employees they run about 3 to 5% of what the products and stuff that they move off their shelves. Like that's all the company costs them based on what they sell that day is 3 to 5%. And so
Yeah.
but then I know there's theft and all that for the other 95% that Walmart has to take into account. But really, that's what value that employee is bringing to Walmart is 3% value. But
Yeah.
it's just crazy. It's all those numbers and stuff. It's crazy to think about that stuff and try to figure it all out. So
I'd say good on them for figuring that mixture out, getting that much value out of your employees. That's, I mean, I understand now, how Walmart can justify to have the scale that it does have, so. Um, so it sounds to me you got to a point during COVID where the COVID was an experience where, there were things that you experienced with your employees to the point where that made you want to sell the business. Was there ever another time in your, I'd imagine, just in your experience working, that you were thinking of moving on to something else? Was there ever another opportunity to sell, or a time when you're like, hey, I think said his name was Doc. Doc's just too much. I'm
yeah,
done with this.
yeah.
And
I
how
mean,
did you overcome that?
on a personal note, I remember there was a time that I just got out of the shower, and I'm not a crier, and I just got out of the shower, and I had a voicemail on my phone, and it was a customer just laying into me, and I remember I started tearing up a little bit. I was telling my wife, I'm not going to do this anymore. Oh, I'm just gonna we're walking away. We're
Hmm.
done. We're going to bill this month, and we're not going to do it next month. And so there's times like that as a business owner all the time where that one was one of the more intense. Like I joke about it all the time. Adam, at one time, I said, I'm not coming in on Monday. And he brought me a retirement cake, and just said, here's your retirement cake. Anyway, we joke about it all the time. I'm not doing this tomorrow. But there are probably a handful of times where I just was telling Betty, I'm not doing this. It's too hard. Customers are too hard. Docs are too hard. The stress is too hard, but you overcome and you figure it out. You sleep and then you move on, and it always gets a little bit better. Hindsight, when it comes to running your business, is the ultimate in looking back and realizing, okay, this is what it taught me and why I'm here because I got through all that. There was a time, Matt, another personal story, but uh, the I had to sell my truck in order to make payroll
Wow.
because we didn't have enough money for payroll, and my
Hmm.
wife was 7 months pregnant,
Oh
and
my.
so we sold the truck. So I was using one of the company's trucks, and I had to take the crappiest of the crappy just to run around and use. And that's what I used to take my wife to the hospital to give birth to our youngest one,
Oh.
was just this gross, disgusting truck. But it's what I had to do in order to make it to that next thing was sell my truck. And at that time, I was just like, after we do this, what's up, dude? A Mountain Dew? You're the best.
Yeah, but how do you make popcorn?
You have to put in the microwave. I'll come help you in just a minute. Can you say hi, Matt?
Hey,
Hi
All right.
there.
Go on. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you in a little bit. But I had to sell my truck in order to make payroll, and I didn't think it was going to get any lower than that. So I was just like, once we get out of this hole, we're all done. But then we got out of the hole, bought another vehicle, figured it out, moved on, and the rest is history. And hindsight, you look back and I realize how close I came to quitting those couple of times, but I never did, and it made me better. But yeah, there are several times where there was some intense moments where I just thought, I can't physically, mentally do this tomorrow. I
Hmm.
I can't do it. There's not going to. But kids and family and all that makes tomorrow bearable, makes the sun come up the next day, because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for them, so they can enjoy the small things in life. And I could be a provider, a man provider. That's what men's got to do. We have to do all that we can. We all want to sit on the beach and do nothing. We do, but that's not reality. We have to provide. And so the
Yeah.
the secret is finding something that you're happy with more than 50% of the time that you can do. Even the job I'm in right now, I've had some really intense experiences, but as long as I'm happy more than half the time, at the end of the day, it's all going to be worth it. Hopefully in 5-10 years, I'll have the same look back and realize that's what I learned. That's what I did. It's okay. Everything is fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking of you taking your wife in this beat up truck, and I'm so happy. It sounds like me like you were able to make it. It didn't break down or anything on the way to the hospital.
It didn't, but it was stinky and it was gross. But yeah, and that my wife was even like, "This is what we're bringing our kids home in, is that." So we're strapping the car seat into this gross, disgusting, greasy, rundown blue Ford F-150, and but
You made
it,
it.
we made it.
You bring up a lot of good points. We kind of got into family there a little bit, and this is something I'm really passionate about. And just having a family, being an entrepreneur with a family, there are a number of entrepreneurs that I feel like get a lot of visibility that don't have families or don't worry about their families. I know it can be a blessing, and it is a blessing to have a family, and but just making sure you can maintain your familial commitments and everything. Does that? How have you approached that being an entrepreneur and a business owner, and what kind of checks and balances or pros and cons have you had to play to navigate that?
Baptism by fire. So in my last business, I remember my wife, she would check in, and there would be times I didn't want to check in. I was too busy. I don't want to check in. So her and I had to come up with a texting system. It was just like she would send me a text and I would send her a number. The number indicated whether I could talk to her or not, 1 through 5. 5 was do not call me. I'm stressed. I can't, or one's I'm having a great day. Give me a call, whatever our number was. Because there was times where I pick up the phone. What? Oh, I just wanted to and it's not her fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it was I had to learn the hard way that it's not her fault, and I was taking it out on the one human being that actually was calling to tell me they love me, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the only human interaction that I had. So that's where it was like, oh, go ahead. Why don't you take that into the other room, okay? So it was the only human being that was talking to me, and I took out my frustrations on them. So it was learning the hard way when it comes to family. And now her and we've been married for just as long as we ran the business, over 20 years. And she understands that as long as more communication is better, hey, this is what my schedule is. and for me, my busy season is from October 15th through December 7th. Through those 6 weeks, I'm going to be working 60 to 80 hours plus a week. I will disappear from my family. And so that includes Thanksgiving. But once I give up Thanksgiving, then Christmas is right around the corner. So we make Christmas a little bit more special that Thanksgiving is going to be. But now it's an understanding between the two of us because I've communicated and I have to tell her, hey, this is where we're at. But when we were first married, it was, hey, I'm just thinking of you. And I'm just like, I'm not thinking of you, And so, and there were times where I hurt her feelings really bad. And I was just having a bad day and I didn't know how to not express that other than the way I was. So that's where she would text me, can you talk? 4. Can you talk? 2. Okay. And so if I told her a 4 and she still called, I knew it was important. So I swallowed my pride. What's going on? Well, Porter's sick. This is what we're doing. Okay, thank you. So that's where the system. So if she called after I said it was 4 or 5, I knew it was important. If if she didn't call, okay, it wasn't that important. I'll call her when things settle down. But if I text her 1 or 2 and she'd call right, hey, how you doing? How's your day? What are you doing for lunch? Just normal young married chit chat, right? But that was great for our marriage, but it was trial by fire because I almost ruined our marriage. Not literally, but figuratively, I came close to really ticking her off and sleeping on the couch a couple of times because just frustrations and running your own business. But yeah, and then when kids come along, that one is you have to have the right partner because the right partner makes or breaks the whole situation. Because when kids come along, there are so many things that happen with the kids that are important to not so important. And Betty, knowing what she needs to tell me, I know that it's important. Like she's not going to tell me that Levi came in and colored a great picture. That can wait till I get home. Hey, look at the picture Levi drew. Because she understands when I'm at work and needs to work. But when she calls me and says, hey, Levi had a bad day today, he could really use you to talk to him. Sounds good. Let me call him in 15 minutes and I'll be able to talk to him for 5 minutes. And then having that communication with her, she could help with my time. So as soon as 5 minutes are ending, hey, do you want a snack? Dad's got to go. Just making sure it wasn't an abrupt, hey, I got to go, and hurting his feelings. She could help ease that into whatever is needed to make everyone's feelings as safe as possible. But honestly, Matt, that was hard too. No one tells you that kind of stuff when you're first married and starting a business, how intense that relationship could be because you're so stressed about what's going on financially, mentally, whatever. And so you just have a good helpmeet there that's just trying to help you the most that they can. And so you just got to let them in and let them do it. And so for people that can't, it's not going to work to be an entrepreneur. It's just not.
Sure.
Personally, I don't see there's a way to do it without a good helper there because it's too stressful. There's too much going on. Betty's my assistant. She's my office manager. She's my house manager. If I need copies made, if I need emails sent, if I need a phone call made, I know I can trust her to do it.
Wow.
When I don't have the time, right? Because she knows. And a lot of relationships, they're not that way. It's only on the one person. So I lucked out. I got a good wife. So
did she know ahead of time what she was getting into when you guys started a business? I doubt she fully knew. But was it okay? All right. So she had to go through that fire with you, obviously, and learn to forgive you and to work with you. That's inspiring. That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that about your family. It's I maybe sometimes I shouldn't think about it, but I think sometimes like, well, what if I didn't have a family and I was doing a business and everything? Oh, think of all the extra time I'd have. I honestly do not think that I could have started a business or an entrepreneurial endeavor of any kind without a family. What they bring to me at least is that just the motivation to get up in the morning and to do things and to follow through. And you touched on this a little bit. That's why we do it as men to do it. Our families give us a great reason to keep going and to keep working because we have to, and we want to provide a good living for our family. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. Thank you so much for sharing your family about your family.
And I think we think about that a lot as entrepreneurs. We think about what if I did it by myself, and I think so. in the early years of our marriage, my wife would come up here to Idaho, and she would leave me for usually a whole month to 2 months and come up here and visit her family up here. And honestly, the first week was the best week I ever had. But by the week 2, it was the loneliest I've ever been, right? I missed my kids. I missed my wife. That first week, I got this done. I got that done. But then after that, once everything was done, I needed the chaos back because I was missing chaos. Everything else just got done in a timely manner. And I was depressed. I was sad. I was lonely. And luckily, I don't give in to vices, or I could see why people drink. I could see why people go out. I could see why because that's all that's left. And so with my family here, they're what's for tomorrow, not the vices. And so when she would leave, like I said, it was that first week was fantastic. That weekend alone in the house, it was fantastic. Eat what I want, do what I want.
Yeah.
But really, that next weekend, when I got everything done on my list to do, I'm just like, Saturdays suck. I have nothing to do. Where are my kids to play with? Where's my wife to talk to? I sit by myself in church? What am I doing? And so by that second week, I couldn't do it without them to motivate me, or I would be a drinker, a vicer, because that's the only thing that could get me through the long weekends. Is not if they weren't here, what else do I have? I need them to come in and ask me how to make popcorn, and now I smell it and my mouth is watering. Right? and that's the exciting thing, and that's why it's great with a family. I mean, got a little personal guy brought me in a little soda, and I love it,
No, I admired that a lot of him bringing you just knowing what you wanted. That's great. Man, thank you for so much for sharing that. And I've just felt as we've talked that family it's such a powerful motivator. And to anyone else that sees or watches or is influenced by this, it can really be something that helps you. It's something to prioritize in your life, just to help you get going. And I feel that from you. So as we're kind of coming to a close, I'd love to talk to you more and talk to you and just to extend. But if you could look back 20 years ago when you're just starting, can you think of any wisdom that you'd pass on to that individual to help them on their journey?
To just let them know it's going to be okay, that tomorrow's sun will still come up and it's going to be okay. Because there's hard days as an entrepreneur. I'm not going to lie. There are days where I didn't think tomorrow was going to come financially, physically, mentally. There were days where 2 or 3 guys would call out. And so I would be going out and doing the work of 2 or 3 people. And so I was up before sunrise and up home after sunset, and I would just come home and literally die and have to get up again the next day. And just, I would tell myself, it's okay. The lessons you're learning right now is going to help you prepare for when your kids need to make those same decisions. Because my dad was not an entrepreneur. My dad's a great support of me, but he is a power plant man. He worked at a power plant for 40 years, retired from the power plant with a pension and full benefits. He does not understand that life. So he couldn't teach me that. But now that I'm doing this, my daughter, who's 15 going on 30, I tell her all the time, just like, you got to do what you want to do and find someone to pay you to do it. It doesn't matter if it's photography, if it doesn't matter if it's pictures, it doesn't matter if it's basket weaving. If you can be the best at your craft and find someone to pay you to do it, there is money out there. You just look at all these artists out there. You tell everyone that, doodled in kindergarten that there's not a future there. Yeah, right. There's a future there if you can be the best and offer that to it. If you can't be the best, you need to find something else. But my mission president, that's what his words of advice were to me. You need to find something that you can love to do most days and find someone to pay you to do it. And so he didn't say all the time. He said most days. And so that's great advice. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids is whether you go to school or go to the military or serve a mission or be an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter as long as you're happy. Because they're like Adam. Adam's the greatest guy in the world, always works for himself. An entrepreneur did not work for him. He did not have the mindset, stressed him out, couldn't do it, doesn't want to do it. So it's not for him, and that's okay. But he made the relationships he did, and I paid him very well and he was happy with that, and he stayed for 20 plus years because of that. So there's nothing wrong with that life either, as long as you're happy with what you're doing. And so anyway, I just tell my past self that tomorrow's going to be okay. Today is intense, but tomorrow's going to be fine. And one day you're going to sit in your house talking to a good friend and realize, look back at over 20 years and just realize you made it to today. And so if you made it to today, you can make it to tomorrow. And I really do look back at that a lot, Matt, to be honest with you, 100%. I talked to one of my good friends in California, and he ran a business too, the same time I did. So we talked a lot, and he's in California now and I'm here, but we talk back and we share war stories, and the stories we share are the stories that we wouldn't want to live again. We very rarely share the great successes. We always share, do you remember that time that you found a crack pipe in your truck? Which I did. That's a true story. So I had to call the police. I had to have the truck impounded. I lost the work truck for the day. I had to get the 3 employees that were in the truck drug tested. Who teaches you that stuff? No one. But I had to do that because I found meth and a crack pipe in my work truck, and they had to take it and search our shop. And I had no idea. I just thought, oh, call the police. Everything's fine. Nope, not even close. I almost lost freaking 3 days of work because of that. And no one tells me, but
goodness.
that's the type of stories that we share with each other. I don't tell them the story of the person that I helped that got there and all that, because the war stories, one, they're fun, but 2, there's a life lesson in it. And the life lesson in that is always have a backup truck. Always have another avenue to do with whatever. And even in software, right? Have an off-site hard drive that everything's saved, because you never know, so.
Oh, that's very true. That's a great lesson to learn. And thank you for sharing that. I've really enjoyed talking with you and getting through some of these things. Do you have any books? I love to read. I'm a reader, and that's okay. Not everybody is. But is there anything that any kind of material or course or learning, something that you've done that you'd recommend?
So I am not a reader, which I should be. I really should. I have a list of probably 15 books that I should read. I think the only book that 2 books is the Rich Dad Poor Dad that I read, and then the Covey book, the
is it 7 habits?
Yeah, 7 habits. And so those are the only 2 books that I've read cover to cover on self-help stuff. But what I find helps me the most, and this is me personally, is I find people that are in my industry that are doing what I want to do, and I listen to what they say. And so, because if they're doing it, I can do it. And so podcasts, YouTube videos, TikToks, whatever it is, that's what my feed is full of. Are there people that are in my industry doing what I'm doing? So I can learn tricks, I can learn do's and don'ts, and I can hear their motivation on their bad days when I need something to get through, because they're living what I'm living right now, or they lived what I lived right now. I mean, if I were to do a podcast about a service industry and I talk about the crack pipe, someone's going to be like, oh yeah, okay, that hits home to me, right? But, if I talk about that to, a software developer, what am I talking about? It's never going to affect them. Selling your truck for payroll, finding a crack pipe, hiring a doc, that doesn't affect them. So finding people that are in that industry that have those experiences, that's what I love. I am a huge podcast guy. I'll go through just whatever is tickling my fancy for a while till I get sick of it, and then I'll move on to someone else. But so there's nothing I can recommend that says that has changed my life, because I am definitely flip the channel generation, as just what's catching my needs right now, who's talking to my soul right now, what do I need in my heart right now because of what's going on around me, because I need different things. On a really, really bad day, I need a little bit of heavy metal. On a really good day, it's opera, right? I'm actually a Celtic music guy, weird enough.
Wow,
but
sweet.
On good days I'll listen to some Celtic music. On the bad days it is some death metal, because I just need to be angry. And so my podcast and things like that are the same way. If I need some true motivation, I need to tell someone. For someone to tell me, hey, you need to do this because you're hurting yourself. And on the good days, I'm like, hey, this is what we learned today. This is what we're doing. Because my emotions definitely run me. So.
Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you'd like to continue seeing more content like this and to support the channel, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel or connecting with me on LinkedIn. Hope to see you in more videos. Thank you so much for your support. Bye-bye.